Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing well. This is Radhika here again, and this video is going to be about why you cannot feel faith after you have been through a narcissistic situation. So again, this is one of a common topics that comes up with the clients that I chat with. So a lot of them often complain about not being able to feel a sense of faith, may it be in a spiritual sense or may it be in a religious sense. A lot of my clients are actually raised in a religious way, but having a narcissistic encounter sometimes even turns them away from the religion that they were raised in, because maybe like this narcissistic person was associated with that religion. And there are a lot of people who just use spirituality or religion as an excuse, and underneath that they have a big ego which might be spiritual or which might be religious. And they use that ego in a very, so they are very narcissistic in that sense, and they just use the religion or the spirituality as a guise to kind of do what they do behind the scenes, and projecting a good image of themselves in front of a community or a family or whatever. So yeah, a lot of people kind of face this issue where after they have been through a narcissistic situation, they also are not sure of basically having a sense of faith or trust in a higher power. And I always recommend faith as a major helping device, also like a coping mechanism while you are recovering from narcissistic abuse. And when I suggest this, a lot of people tell me that, but I don't feel faith anymore, I can't feel it. So it's a common thing. It's common to kind of lose your faith in maybe people, humanity, in society, in religion, or whatever situation, in family, in the institution of a marriage, or different kinds of things, even in your mother, father, and relationships. If you have been through a narcissistic situation, it can be difficult, because you lose faith in all of these things I mentioned. So it's okay. It's okay if you have lost your faith. And I will tell you at an energetic level why this has happened, why you have lost your faith. Something that you had once, you have kind of lost it now. And we are in this because that felt good to you, having that faith, and it always feels good to have faith. You want it back, or you are kind of, you are trying consciously or unconsciously to gain back the faith that you once had. So yeah, this is very common and it happens to a lot of people. In fact, it happens to most people, because if your faith is extremely strong, I would say you probably would not have gotten into a narcissistic situation in the first place. So this is like a learning cycle that you go through, at the end of which you will gain such a kind of faith which will be unwavering. Like sometimes it might go down some days here and there, but you won't spend so much of a time being kind of involved in a narcissistic situation if you have faith, and true faith, not like a wobbly kind of a faith. So yeah, so basically, what is faith? So faith is something that gives us a feeling of uh, trust. It gives us a feeling that someone or something else is in control, and you don't have to be in control all the time. So it's a feeling of surrender, it's a feeling of surrendering to something bigger than you, and just knowing that everything will be taken care of. You don't have to worry, or you don't have to struggle or strive to get something done. And with that also comes a sense of acceptance. So you accept the situation as it is, you accept everything as it is. And even with accepting everything, that doesn't mean that you don't take steps to change a bad situation. If you are in a bad situation, acceptance only means that at this moment you do not have any resistance to what already is. And you will do what is necessary to be done, and it's as open as that. There's no like hard and fast rules on that. Acceptance just means not resisting what is, not creating your excuses for it, or your resistance against that this should not be this way, or your victim mentality against it, that it always happens to me, why does it always happen to me, those kind of things. So acceptance only means that you are completely understanding and you're completely okay with the thing that is happening. But that doesn't mean that you are saying that, oh, I'm not going to do anything to change this situation. Acceptance does not mean that. And a lot of people feel acceptance means that I'm just always going to be stuck in this situation. But no, acceptance does not actually mean that. So yeah, so all of that comes from a feeling of faith, from a feeling that everything is going to be okay. Because when you have that feeling, it's only then that you can actually transition into these emotions of, you know, the emotions that propel you forward to actually make a positive change. Because if you stay in negative emotions, it's always difficult to kind of get yourself out of them and get things done. To get things done, you have to first move yourself from a place of negative emotions into either neutrality or positive emotions. That's when you can actually get things done. If you look at an energetic or an emotional level, you always have to kind of move to a neutral space or a positive space. So plays a very important part in this. And when I say faith, I don't actually mean a religion or a god. Or what I mean is, you have an unwavering sense that things are going to be okay and things are going to pan out and you are going to be able to do this. So a big part of faith is actually faith in yourself. And if you a lot of people find it helpful to take help of an external resource, like say a god, or whatever you want to call it, consciousness, or an whatever, a religion, universe, whatever you want to call it, it does not matter. Something that gives you a sense of faith. It's a feeling that you get from that entity, whatever that entity is. It doesn't matter for this context. So once you have that, it's it gives you like a it's like a propellant. It gives you a boost to go in the right direction. And faith is a thing that mostly comes from your heart, because there's no logic in it. And as a person who has been like pretty logical for most of my life, I never understood faith. When I was in my logical mind, I never could understand faith. And I always thought that people who are always talking about faith and this and that, they're just trying to kind of what do you say, fool themselves. That is what I used to think, that they are just trying to fool themselves that everything's going to be okay. And I always relied on my logic to make it okay myself. So you see the dichotomy here, because when you are completely in your logical mind, the responsibility of making it okay is on you, because you have to use your logical mind to make it okay, which is totally fine. In a lot of scenarios, you use your brain, which is a gift to you use it to make things okay. But you also need to realize, in a lot of scenarios, you are not going to be able to just use your brain to make things okay, because not everything is going to be under your control in every situation. So, in those situations where things are not under your control, you need to have a tool which is different than your logic, because your logic is not going to help you there. So, even this is a very logical decision. Now, I understand that if you don't have logic, okay, you go to faith. But faith is not an emotion, or it's not like an organ that is given to you. Like your brain is given to you so you can think and you can sharpen your brain, but how do you sharpen your faith, and from where does faith come? So for a person like me who did not have a lot of faith, when it came into my life, it came from my heart. And so heart is the center of faith, it's the center of belief, it's the center of believing, of hoping, of praying, every all of those emotions which are very extremely pure, they come from your heart. The emotion of love, the emotion of care, the emotion of empathy, the emotion of compassion, sympathy, they all come from your heart. So, how do you feel faith? Because it's hard to feel it. So, um, usually, even a highly spiritual person who's doing all practices like meditation, they are eating a yogic diet, they may be doing yoga, they might do a lot of things, which are like recommended, or which are logical, or which are done with a very like goal oriented kind of an approach. They also might not feel an emotion of faith. And sometimes a very simple person, a very simple person who doesn't have a very developed mind, can be extremely secure in their faith. And it's really something to see such a person, because they are completely unafraid and they are completely accepting of life in all its forms. And in India, a lot of times, like the domestic help who comes to your home to clean things, if you, at least in my example, in my experience, I have had domestic helps who are so strong in their faith that I was amazed by them. They would kind of work in 20 homes or 30 homes on, and then go back to their own home and then do the work there. But what was really very strong in them was this sense of faith. And so, this sense of faith really doesn't have to do anything with logic. But what it has to do is, it has to do with purification of the heart. So, people who have a pure heart are very, faith comes to them. It actually comes to you. It's not something that you go to, and it's not something that you decide, okay, today I'm going to have faith and I'm going to start having faith from today. And you can't do it that way. It has to come to you. Faith has to come. It's almost like a strengthening of your heart. If you were to imagine it, the energy of faith is something that strengthens your heart. So your heart that would break, or that would pain, or that would ache over things, now gets it gets like a cement coating, or it gets boosted in some way. So your heart kind of becomes stronger with faith. So a lot of times this purification of heart, what it means is that a lot throughout life, the trauma that you have either gone through, endured, or anything that has kind of broken your heart a little bit, you have to first heal all of those things. All of the things that have made these small holes in your heart, you have to revisit them, and you have to try to heal them. Another thing that blocks the faith coming into the heart is low vibration emotions. So you might have gone through some conditioning in your childhood which could keep you in low vibe emotions. Also, if you have been through a narcissistic experience recently, either they might have given you these feelings, these low vibration emotions, or they could have triggered these in you, and maybe you always carried them, but the narcissistic person acted as a trigger to trigger those up in you again. Or it can also be like, if you are an extremely empathetic and open person without boundaries, it could also be you literally picked up that energy from the narcissistic situation or the narcissist or someone else in your surrounding. It could actually be a borrowed energy as well. It might not be your own, but you might start experiencing these emotions, once you borrow that energy. So what are these emotions? These emotions are, some examples of these emotions are jealousy. So jealousy stems from a lack mentality, where you feel like someone else has something that you don't. So it's just a blockage, because we all have everything. But when you have a lack mentality, you always feel like you don't have something and the other person has it. And obviously this can be something like a car, like they have a car, you don't have it. But it stems from a deeper thing than that, which is that you are comparing yourself with others and you always put yourself down. So it comes from a sense of inferiority. It's a complex that you have, where you don't feel good enough like other people around you. So this could be one. Another could be a sense of injustice or victimhood. If you have been through some situation where you were not treated in the correct way, you were not treated how you should have been treated. Some other feelings are like irritation, fear, worry, etc. So if you feel such emotions on an average quite a lot of times in your day to day exchanges with people, if you find that you are really unable to be happy for other people, um, so it all of these signs kind of show that your heart needs healing and your heart needs to get purified. Because only with purification can you actually start experiencing the emotions that will make you feel faith. Otherwise you will not feel faith. There are so many people who pretend to have a lot of faith, but if you talk to them for some time, you will find these people to be extremely jealous or extremely gossipy or extremely critical of other people. So this is not faith. When you have faith, there is a feeling of oneness. There is a feeling of unity amongst all of existence, and you feel like you are a part of this existence. You feel a feeling of belonging. Then no one can tell you that you do not belong here, because now you have started belonging to the entire existence. And you exist as a whole now. You don't exist as a separate entity. So, to reach that kind of a level of faith, you have to let go of these emotions of separate consciousness, which make you feel it's me versus them, which makes you feel it is someone else has something that I don't, or someone else gets treated better than I do. Because all of these feelings come from a separation consciousness, where you are creating a separation. You are thinking I am this and they are that. And I understand this in terms of boundaries, because this is good in terms of boundaries. But now we are talking in terms of faith. So, to have true faith, you have to let go of separation consciousness, because separation consciousness is very good for setting boundaries, but not for having faith. And so, you have to kind of like walk this thin line of thinking of yourself as a separate entity when you have to set your boundaries against narcissistic people, but internally understanding that we all are one. So I'm not saying you don't move out of a narcissistic situation or don't stand up for yourself, you do that. But also at a deeper level, you have to understand that ultimately, as the source, we all are one. We all are consciousness expressed in different forms. So, when you get to that level of understanding of faith, it that doesn't mean you go and live with a narcissistic person or you go and let them abuse you. No, that it doesn't mean that. But it means that you will be able to let go of revenge, or all these revenge fantasies, or this need of inflicting pain on someone who has wronged you. So all of these emotions, they need to get purged through your being, because you will get these emotions, and it is very natural for you to get these emotions. Because if you have been wronged, your body, your emotional makeup, your conditioning, everything will make you go into those negative emotions. It's not even under your control anymore. So when you are in those negative emotions, you can actually use those to purify your heart. And how do you do that? So when you feel a negative emotion in your heart, or wherever you feel it in your body, maybe like jealousy, you might feel it in your solar plexus. Irritation, you might feel it in your sacral chakra or swadhisthana chakra. So what you do is you actually feel these emotions. You feel them. When you're feeling jealous of someone, don't deny your jealousy. Just tell yourself, okay, I am feeling jealous of so and so person, maybe because the narcissistic person treats them better than me, and maybe a part of me still wants some approval from the narcissistic person. So, when you actually accept this, when you say this to yourself, when you feel this, and when you feel it in your heart, when you feel it in your whole body, in your being, then you tell that emotion, okay, thank you. Now I hear what you have to say, and I validate you, and thank you. Can you go away now? I don't think I have anything more to do with you. And see the emotion go away. So this is one way you can do it. Um, the another way is a little bit different. It is not focusing on the negative emotions that you feel, but it is focusing on gratitude. So if you generate gratitude in your heart, maybe obviously not about the narcissistic situation, or it could be hard to generate gratitude about that, but say you generate gratitude about your job, or about the house that you live in, or about some supportive friends, or about YouTube, or about anything that has helped you, and that you feel a genuine gratitude towards. If you generate the feeling of gratitude towards that, that will help you alchemize the heavy emotions that you feel. And that's a process that automatically gets done. You don't have to do that. So gratitude is like, suppose it's like white color. So you have a color painted on your emotional body, say it's jealousy or envy, say it's a green color, right, of jealousy or envy, whatever. I'm just like randomly picking green because usually envy is like, I think it is represented with green. So you can, if you imagine gratitude to be like a white color. So say you're feeling jealous about someone who the narcissistic person is treating really nice. But say you feel gratitude for a storybook that you're reading, you love reading that storybook. If you can bring that feeling of gratitude into your heart when you are feeling this feeling of jealousy, what will happen is the gratitude will alchemize the feeling of jealousy. So imagine like a paper being painted green and you completely paint that paper with white, and you, the gratitude has to be strong, so the white paint that you put on it is so strong that the green completely gets colored over with the white. So that is what gratitude can do for you when the feeling of gratitude is very strong. So that's why gratitude is a tool that is used in most spiritual practices. There are gratitude journals, gratitude diaries. You can do it in your phone every day, some write three things that you're grateful about. It could be as simple as some warm water that you need, when your throat is hurting. You could be thankful for that warm water to make your throat feel better. So, something as simple as that. Then, another thing which is kind of difficult but which I think you can do is when you feel a certain emotion which is negative, you bring in the opposite of that emotion. So, say you're feeling lack, you're suddenly feeling lack. So, maybe you feel like, mm, my house is not good enough, my car is not good enough, I don't have enough money. So what you do is you bring in an opposite feeling. So what is the opposite of lack mentality? It's abundance. So you actually try to bring in the feeling of abundance. Now how can you do that? So maybe go in your closet and look at all the dresses you have, or go into the kitchen and look at all the variety of food that you have in the kitchen. So you have to yourself kind of try to bring in the opposite emotion. So you can actually feel, oh, I have so many clothes in my closet. Or you can look at your kitchen and you feel, I have so many options of food that I can eat today. So when you have that, when you bring in that opposite emotion, it balances out the lack that you feel. And when you do that, it's a good habit to have. So it, what it will do is anytime you go into a negative emotion, your brain will develop a circuitry to bring in the opposite. So your brain will tell you, but you also think of that. So your brain will develop a habit of taking you from negative to positive very quickly. So similarly, if you feel worry about something in your life, think about a time in your life when everything worked out for you. Just think about it. And when you actually bring in the opposite emotion, what happens is it will also affect this situation that you are worrying about. Even though you cannot imagine a good outcome for that situation, just bringing in the feeling that everything is fine will automatically help the situation that you're worrying about. And you have to do this again and again. So not, it won't just work if you do it one time. You kind of have to make this a habit in your life. Whenever you feel a heavy emotion, you have to train your brain to first recognize it, second to accept it, validate it, and then third, if you want to transmute it, if you want to replace it with some positive emotion, then you have to make it a habit to bring in its opposite, polar opposite reaction or emotion into your body. Yeah, so if you continue doing that for a few months, it is definitely going to help you I also have like a blog post that talks about how to heal the heart chakra with music, and I will link that below this video. So maybe you can take a look at it if you're interested. And yeah, so I think this is one of these are some ways that I can think of in which you can try to purify your heart. And once your heart is purified, once the jealousy really goes away, once you don't feel jealous, and that day will come, there will be a day where you don't feel anything about the narcissistic situation anymore. And trust me, that day will come. That day you will not feel any jealousy. And not just in the narcissistic situation, if you apply this same strategy in other situations in your life, when you don't feel the heavy emotions, when something good happens for someone, and the first immediate reaction you have is, oh, I'm so happy for them, and it's not a fake reaction, it's a true reaction, that is the day when you can say that okay, your heart has been purified. And when that happens, a sense of stability, of having faith, will really come into your being. It will permeate your being. And if you think about it, actually the faith that will come into you is not for an external entity, or not for a god, or not for consciousness, or not for a higher cause. If you actually get to the energy of the faith, it is actually an energy of having faith in yourself to face anything in this world. But to do that is a big process. You have to go through the process of healing, through the process of purification. And then, when you have faith, even though you might say, I have faith in God, ultimately, what that means is someone is taking care of me, but ultimately I'm going to do what I have to do for the best of whatever the situation is. So the faith that you don't have in a god or in an external thing or something like that is actually it's actually a reflection of you not having faith in yourself. And which is fine after you have gone through a narcissistic situation, because they can be really draining, and your intuition takes a hit, after you go through it, because you have ignored the red flags and you have gone in too deep and you have gotten hurt. So the faith that you lose, I understand a little bit of it, most of it you lose in other people and the situation and god or all these external things. But the crux of it is you also lose faith in yourself. So, when you yourself purify all your negative emotions, all the things that need to be healed, ultimately what happens is you regain the faith you have in yourself. And then you have this kind of a understanding that no matter what happens, I will go through it. I will face it. I will walk through whatever life has to throw at me, or whatever life is, I'm ready to experience it. And once you get to that mindset, that is the time when you can say that, okay, I have got my faith back. It's your trust, it's your faith in yourself that you find lacking. And yeah, so that was this video. I hope this helps you in some way, and I try to explain this to my clients as well. But yeah, this is a longer version of what I kind of go through in the sessions with them. So yeah, I hope it helps you, and as always, thank you so much for supporting this channel. I hope you guys comment, like, share, subscribe any of my content if you like it. And I hope you all are staying safe and taking care of yourself, of your mental health, physical health, emotional health. And as always, I wish you all a lot of love and a lot of light. Thank you. Bye.